So when did your creative journey begin?
So this might sound like a little cliche, but I think I've always been a creative person. I was like drawing as a kid. I got into, we'll call it letter art, but it's sort of graffiti back in New York. And like high school and stuff. College, I dabbled, and then I took a long break because I was a scientist. I went like full into a neuroscience, and that's the reason I moved out here is for grad school and that. It kind of crushed my creativity, I think, because it's so like rigid, so many like, you know, research articles I had to read, and eventually like I wrote my own, published. But then once I left science, I started this company, Blossom, which is a community marketplace platform for plant people. That's why I have plants everywhere. I was a huge plant guy, and it was kind of if OfferUp met like Instagram for plants.
Okay.
And so I worked on that for almost 5 years. It was like my brainchild. But the creativity started flowing back again because we were just two guys creating this company, and we had no budget. So it's like, how do you build awareness? How do you get people to download? It's mostly mobile based, like an app for the first couple of years. Like, how do you get people onto your platform when you have no budget? And so I just had to be kind of creative, figure out all these guerrilla marketing tactics to get people on board. I came up with many effective ones, and eventually raised VC money, got into Accelerate and all that. But for years, it was just straight up like creative tactics to get people on. And when I left, had 80,000 active users in every state.
Nice.
It was pretty dope.
Wow.
During that time, actually right when I started, like right before I started the company, I was getting into resin art, which has like been my focus for about 7-8ish years now. And it started with this redwood table that I actually have in the garage right now. A buddy's dad gave me a redwood slab.
Okay.
Like beautiful redwood slab. He had all his live edge furniture in his house. This was like in Half Moon Bay. I spent Thanksgiving with my buddy Zek and his family. And he had this untouched slab in the backyard, and I was like, hey, Mike, what are you going to do with that? And he's like, nothing. And he's like, you want it? And I was like, yeah, I'll take it. So it actually perfectly fit my buddy's car. We drove it back to OB. I planed it, I routed it, I sanded it down, but then I saw these saw marks in it. And I was like, oh, maybe I can, I'll fill it with resin. I always kind of was interested in that. So I just went to Home Depot, I got like the epoxy resin table stuff, and I just started kind of filling in gaps, and then I started putting like seashells and stuff in there, and eventually, plants and leaves and all this stuff I would collect on the beach after surfing. But the cool thing about the table, maybe I'll show you it later, is that you can see my whole like resin journey.
Yeah.
And all the mistakes I made, and when I corrected them, and you can see the evolution, how it went from simple just to really complex, like little worlds where I had so much stuff in there. And I just made so many mistakes in this table, and I learned so much. So it's kind of cool. It's like my tangible resin lessons, like preserved.
Love to see it, yeah.
And then from there, I was just kind of fascinated by the amount of applications that resin has. Like people make little jewelry, resin jewelry, then people do these big, massive like river tables, and then it can be a protectant, it can be an adhesive, it can be poured on the table, is used for boats. There's just so many uses for it, and I was like, whoa, I like this medium. I think this would be something that can kind of aggregate all my interests and like passions together.
Cool. One of the things that stood out to me from our initial conversation was how you're able to create like events and bring people together. So can you talk to me a little bit about that?
It probably started with so it would blossom since we didn't have any marketing or advertising budget. I would host these like plant swap events in like key areas to try to bring community members together, center around like a passion, like horticulture, house plants, just having green beauty in their home. And I did a bunch in OB. I've been here like 15 years. This is my community.
Yeah.
And I could just, I realized I was good at organizing them. I was good at getting like, key people involved. And I was also like proficient at getting people like excited for these things. And I think I'm pretty, organized, and I can coordinate these big things with, many layers of people. And so I was like, oh, let me apply that tactic to my art stuff and give other people that might not be thinking like that a chance. All my events are like free for artists. I don't charge commissions. I do it because I love bringing people together. Mm-hmm. And for example, this recent one at the climbing gym, just a couple days ago, Mesa Rim, like the funny thing is, and I was telling them this, like, most of the time, people in the climbing gym in this environment, this atmosphere, like people just talk about climbing. Like you just know each other as climbers. Yeah. You talk about like problems you're working on, your climbing projects, your trips, all that. And so it's very like one-dimensional. But then maybe you go on a camping climbing trip with people, or you see them outside the gym, and you quickly realize, oh wow, there's more to you than just climbing. A lot of climbing people didn't even know, all these other things about me, that I was like a scientist, that I was like a startup guy, that I surf and I play classical music. And they're like, dude, what? So I was like, and they were especially surprised, like, oh, you make art too. So this was like, oh, this has been a community of mine for a long time. I want to show them my creative side. And I know there's other people like me that would love to have this opportunity. Let's bring in other people as well. And had 12 people join. One was my girlfriend, who's also a climber and artist. She joined, and then had to cap it off at like 13. But there's still like people after that saw me posting about it, and they're like, oh, when can you fit me in? And so the demand was overwhelming. And it was just such a fun event, seeing people show a side of them that other people might have never seen before. And I just personally love seeing other people's art and try to like, organize like art swaps. I was like, hey, you want to trade this piece for that? I've done this a few times in different venues. And I sold 2 pieces. I know other people sold stuff. So it's just such like a feel-good event, not only for the business, the venue. They're doing a community thing. Usually, like, I'll bring in outside people that normally wouldn't be at a venue. Mm-hmm. This was climbing, but I just wanted to show the current climbing community, different sides. People sold stuff. People just had a good time. A bunch of us like left notes at our booths and just went climbing for a bit.
That's awesome.
And yeah, they're just such a fun way to connect with people and help other people connect with each other. And I think that is probably the main driver behind like my desire to coordinate these bigger scale events.
An artist, a newer artist wants to like maybe do an event of their own. Do you have any advice on how they can get started?
Yeah, I think a good starting point would be like, which communities are you currently involved with and tapped into, and focus on hubs where your community likes to hang out. I did one early this year in Bishop, so I go there for climbing also a lot. But we did it at the main coffee shop up there, Black Sheep Coffee Roasters. Yeah. That's a hub. Whenever I'm up there, I stop in there and I run into friends. And I'm like, this would be a great place. So then I just reach out to usually I just DM like the Instagram account, or I'll just go in there and ask them like, hey, I'm interested in like hosting an art show here, bringing people in from the community too. Are you guys down? I handle all the coordination. I usually make a bunch of promotional materials. Like I'll make the flyer. Mm-hmm. I'll do all like the copy and content for like an email blast. So I have experience doing that. Yeah. So I want to make it as easy as possible for them to want to host it. And I'm like, really, all you have to do is provide me with the venue and I'll do the rest.
Yeah.
So it's like an easy selling thing.
Definitely. You've done a lot of different things, like a lot. So I'm curious, what motivates you?
I think what's driving all these, or like what's driving me and like can have such diverse things, is when whatever I'm creating is like providing value, and especially like having a positive impact on other people. And Blossom is scalable with technology, and we tens of thousands, probably more like in the hundreds of thousands. Science was like, oh, I want to learn about different diseases, or just curious about the brain and biology, and how can that help people to maybe eventually formulate cures and things like that. With the art, one, it's therapeutic for me, and I just love creating. It's bringing all my worlds together, like my surf world, my climbing world, like all my material is all natural, and it's like I'm finding myself, like I just foraged for stuff after surfing this morning at the OB Pier. My tub's filled with shells and kelp right now, and it's just like a daily foraging for stuff. But when I make pieces, every single person just gets so happy. And like they like freaking out, like ecstatic. And then I've done probably like 15 wedding bouquets. Those feel great. People just like, I transform their bouquet, and I do their bouquets in like the style of my art. So like I don't really see anyone doing that. Just such an insane reception of like stoke and excitement. I'm like, wow, I created something that would make someone that excited and feel that way.
I think it's something like most artists should consider. Like as freelancers, it's really good to have multiple sources of income coming in. And I know you've been really creative with that. I saw that you're doing a workshop.
They're a small community, As We Wake.
As We Wake, yeah. The organization, did they approach you? Did you approach them? And like, do you have other things that you've done with your artwork that like you're able to bring like different sources of income?
Yeah, I'm keeping it focused within the art like domain. Mm-hmm. I don't want to like spread myself too thin.
Yeah.
So the workshops, I've done quite a few, and also at other like bigger like institutions. Like did one at Trilogy Sanctuary not too long ago. But the workshops were born from my art nights. So I would just have friends over, and one person would provide a medium, and kind of just, it's not like a formal workshop. It's more like, hey, essentially it's like get friends together to create.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people think they're not creative. Like, oh, I can't do that. I'm like, no. You're human. You can do it.
Yeah.
But you might have just not the right environment or atmosphere or safe place to express that part of you. And so art nights are for that. And a lot of them, like, I would lead, because I'd be like spearheading most of them. And like I would do a resin pendant one. I would do a wire sculpture one. I do stuff like that. I have some over there. I'm into like pyrography, like wood burning, like bunch of medium. So like these art nights were just to get people have fun making art. And then I was like, oh, this would be a good thing to do as, you know, a part of like this art path. And to be honest, it's not like that's not really like a big money generator for me, but it brings other people in, gets people excited. I just enjoy them making art with new people, and like, you know, brought in some money, but it's more also exposure and marketing. And I have a very large spread of stuff I make. Like I make small pieces that I'll sell for like as low as $40. I make mid-range stuff, 100, 200, 300. And then I have another tier, you could say, stuff that's like 600, 800, maybe even 1,000. And then I have my few big statement pieces that are going to be thousands, and I'm not going to sell it for less. Otherwise, I'll just keep it. But I know there's buyers out there that would buy it for their price. I just haven't found them yet.
Yeah.
So that's why I systematically have been using the farmers markets and the workshops and things to kind of test markets to see the reception of my stuff.
Yeah.
So that was key for me, to have like a large spread of work that has different price points. And then I have the wedding bouquets and like, you know, I preserve just like really any bouquet, any floral stuff. And I wanted to lean into that more this year, but it's not like I would say my passion. But when I give it to them, it's like an added challenge. It's like, make something cool that's in the style of your own art with the set bouquet and enough to personalize it for them and get them really stoked. So it's like a little more challenge, and I have to like think more in like a box. But then when it comes together, I'm like, oh man, this is sick. They're gonna freak out. And I always like update them before I, you know, preserve. And every single person's just like, once again, like freaking out. And I'm like, wow, that feels good for me. They're so stoked. And those are more money. Those are like, I've done as low as like 300, but usually they're like 500 to 700. So those keep me afloat while I keep grinding and like hustling for like my own art.
Yeah. I've had conversations with other artists who are also come from like diverse backgrounds, and they've always said like, I don't see enough people in my race pursuing art, you know? And I think that's big. So I applaud you for like making this commitment to yourself. And I think even though you might not know it, like it's making an impact on people because they're seeing examples that you're setting to. So my question for you, Ryan, is when did you realize that art was more than a hobby to you?
When I mentally committed to it, and I was like, I'm gonna see if I can support myself and see how deep I can go into this realm as a business, you know, and a passion. That's when I was like, it's no longer a hobby. You know, I got into a couple fine art galleries, like juried shows, and that was like super validating. I got accepted into Acadia Art Walk, which was a big deal to me. That's a pretty big show, and I think it's like high competitive. So yeah, it was that shift. And you know, once money gets involved, things change. But I always told myself, if I start making my art just to make money or just what people will buy, then my art has been compromised and I'm gonna stop. You know, maybe like, except for like one person, like she wanted it a very specific way and I did not enjoy that. But she was still like stoked.
Yeah.
Everybody else they've seen, you know, my stuff now, and they're like, I trust you. So I guess like my selling process is is solid, and I'm like confident going in. I'm like, listen, I'm gonna make you something personal and beautiful, and it's gonna be epic. And I guarantee that. And I have not, not one person has been disappointed. But if it gets to a point where I'm just like a pair of hands resining stuff, or if it doesn't feel like it's my art, then I'm gonna stop. So that's always like in the back of my mind. I haven't really felt that yet. I'm still just making stuff that I love to create for myself, and people love it just as much. The journey kind of started here, then just started going around the rim, and you can see how it evolved to just like big, complex kind of tide pools.